Okay. Both of us have had over 25 years in the IT industry. Myself, I'm a chartered IT professional, one of only 500 in New Zealand. Had to go through a lengthy process to go and get there. So it's a bit similar to like a chartered accountant, but in the IT professional industry. We specialize in the health industry, but we also help other businesses as well. So all lawyers, accountants, anything, basically any type of business that we look after. So we're happy to help all businesses. I just thought I'd go back over this backups. Just the other day, actually yesterday, I had to restore a database for a client, and unless you got decent backups or a backup, you just can't do it. The issues out there are ongoing. So to have a good backup, and actually to have an off-site backup. So if you've got a PC or a laptop, and you basically have a backup on that, that's great. But you also need to consider having an off-site backup, because if that gets compromised, potentially your backup also gets compromised too. So having an off-site backup, whether it's in, if you're using like Dropbox, things like that, that's great, because you can try and recover from that. But if you've got something, if you're a bigger business where you might have a server, you need to have a decent off-site backup. So that's something I'd really highly recommend, because you need to make sure that you can basically recover your data. I also recommend as well having your, even if you're with Dropbox or anything like that, is to have your own backup as well, because if those services go down, you basically you need to be in control of your data. So I recommend having your own backup, plus also the offsite backup as well. One of the things I thought to go over is sort of common problems for businesses. Slow internet is one of them. Your basic plan on fiber, if you're on one of the older fiber plans, you may only be getting 30 meg down, 10 meg up. That's quite painful. It's okay, but if you've got a family at home and things like that, you'll be finding that quite painful. One thing you can do is just jump onto Google and just go to www.speedtest.net, and that will just show you how fast your download is and upload. It will give you an indication. So if you think your internet's slow, try doing that. If you do it from a PC, you'll get a different result than you will do from doing it for your laptop. The reason for that is laptops, there is a lag, and you don't get as fast connection as using a PC with a network cable. So I always recommend that where possible, if you can use a network cable, use it. You'll find the experience far more reliable and better than actually using Wi-Fi, especially with video. But you can make your Wi-Fi more powerful. You can add access points. Access points are a little bit different to what's called extenders. So access points require a network cable from the router, and usually you put it sort of quite a distance away from the router. Generally, you mount them on the ceiling as well, and that will provide you powerful Wi-Fi around the house as well. So there are ways around that if you can't plug a cable in to try and get decent internet. Systems fit for purpose. So for a long time, probably from the get-go when we started our business, the original business was 2003. We've always designed systems fit for purpose. So I'll just take an example there. Theo, he had a laptop and he wanted a new laptop, and I looked at what his needs were. Predominantly he was sitting at a desk. So having a laptop, unless you would need to be moving around, realistically, desktops are far faster, far more reliable, and you get to have a proper big screen and keyboard and mouse. Okay, with a laptop you can plug those in, and if you're portable, that's fine. But if you're static, then a PC is far better long term. Plus, you get a longer life out of a PC than a laptop as well. Laptops, again, I think we just covered that really. What I would say with laptops, there are two different types. There's the home laptop and the business laptop. So the home laptops usually come with Windows 10 Home or Windows 10. There's a new dumbed down version. I think, oh, Windows 10 S. Do not buy a laptop with Windows 10 S. Very limited. So I would always buy. I'd recommend getting Pro because it's better. But you know, if you're not connecting to a domain, a server, then you can get away with home. That's absolutely fine. But just make sure that you spec a laptop. Some of the new laptops these days don't come with network ports. They only come with Wi-Fi. So if you get a business laptop, generally they all come with a network port. So that's just one thing to be aware of there. Tablets, I've had quite a few clients for staff who are on the road get tablets. There are, again, different ones. You need to look at what it's actually going to do, whether they're just going to get email and a web application, then pretty much anything to do, an Android or anything like that. But if you need to use that to VPN, you've really got to go down to a Windows-based tablet. So like a Microsoft Surface Pro or some other device that has Windows on it. So again, really worth thinking. If you're going to get tablets for staff, then you need to think of actually what you need it to do. Servers, I mean, servers are changing. It used to be that everyone used to have a server in-house. More people now are looking at the cloud. So that's really, you know, again, though, you need to look of what you're doing. I've got customers who they do transactions and they need to print. So, and it all relies on emails and the way the systems work. You need to think about it. If you move all your email to Office 365 Exchange Online, there's a big delay on that. So where if you've got a business with 20 people relying on really fast communication, having a server in the cloud just doesn't work. So again, you need to look at what your needs are at the time. Speed of systems. A lot of everyone's I've been talking about for probably a few years, the SSDs, so solid state drives. If you don't have a solid state drive in your system, then I'd really highly recommend getting one. Pretty much most new devices now come with solid state drives, but it's seriously a game changer from going from the standard spinning drive. And one last thing there, ownership of domains. So your domain is what you have your website. So for instance, our one is NorthTec.co.nz. So I just had a discussion with Matt the other day about this, that it's quite critical that that you know who's got controlling ownership of your domain. So I'd highly recommend that if Matt's not looking after you and you've got another web guy that looks after you, make sure you've got access to your domain, because if you want to move from that person, you can't, because they hold your IP and all your information, you know, for your domain. So you know, probably in this lockdown, if you've got time, just have a look to see who's actually got access to. Do you have access to your own domain, your business domain? And I would really recommend maybe Matt's pretty busy, but you can speak to us as well. We can help you with that to set up your own account and move things across if need be. But I think that's really worth doing that. Working from home, obviously at the moment everyone's working from home. Having dual monitors, I mean, I've got dual monitors, and I think it's really the way to go. And I think that, you know, you've got to be comfortable with how your setup is. We're still here for a little while. Hopefully we don't go into lockdown again, and having everyone's injections stops that. But I can still see that, you know, there's still going to be a level of working from home just because of the nature of people are getting used to it. And, you know, I think that probably it's good to have a really good setup at home. So a comfortable chair, possibly a docking station, which means you can easily plug things in, you know, mouse, keyboard, screens. Secure remote access as well to Office. So if you do have like a shared PC that you need to access, make sure that it's actually secure, that you're getting in there. You're not just using RDP to connect to it, which is open. You know, so those are things that, you know, you need to think about, because there are bad guys out there all the time just surfing the internet. Well, not surfing, but they basically, what they do, they write scripts just looking for holes and vulnerabilities. So they don't even do it themselves. They just write scripts and just keeps trolling the internet. So yeah, it happens every day. So a good quality webcam. I think that's, you know, you can get webcams quite cheap now, but sometimes having a good quality one, you know, we're still doing lots of meetings online. So that's really key, I think, as well. You know, you probably, a good quality one probably starts around $75 to sort of 125. I don't think you probably don't need to go any higher than that, but you can get quite decent ones for that. So yeah, if you're thinking about webcams, let us know. I can point you in the right direction. And remote printing. If you do have a PC or server there and you need to print back home because you need to see things, you know, that's quite a key thing these days. So if you need help with that, then we can help people with that as well. Cybersecurity. This is quite a hot topic at the moment. Unfortunately, the cyber criminals don't break. Sorry, they don't have a break. They continue all the way through. We're still getting issues now with clients. So again, I think there's probably, it's a scary thought, but prepare for a breach. It's probably going to happen at some point in some form. So, you know, what can you do? Backups. If you don't have backups that are encrypted and away from your device, it gets hit, and potentially you might not be able to recover. So having backups is key with anything. Spam control. If you have a domain and you're with Office 365, then there is a level of spam control there, which is great. We currently, we prefer a solution called SMX. It's a New Zealand-based company, and they basically filter all mail before it even comes to you. So they take out pretty much 99% of spam, viruses, and malware. So you can see it's quite a powerful thing to have, and we actually prefer the businesses have that. But you can only have that if you have a domain. So your own domain, like Marcus at NorthTec.co.nz. So you've got to have a domain to be able to put that in place. Passwords. That's another thing. If your system's vulnerable and you're not patching it, having a really good password, the recommendation now is 14 characters. It sounds quite long, but if you just do a sentence, change a few letters, numbers, and a capital, then it's not too difficult to get it. You don't need to make it, you know, mind-blowing difficult, but just have it long, because it gets to the stage when you get to 14 characters, the systems that try and crack them, they can't crack them. So yeah, and don't use the same password everywhere. Storing passwords is a bit of a nightmare as well. So maybe consider a password manager if you haven't already, or even a simple spreadsheet and password protect that spreadsheet with a master password. You know, it's really key to make sure that your passwords are safe. It's, you know, it's easy to say that, and people get lax a little bit, but having a good password and keep them safe is quite key. Probably the biggest thing to protect you is making sure that you do your Windows updates. Anything that Microsoft push out every 2 weeks, or if there's an urgent, even sooner, please do it, because that's going to protect you. It's going to stop you getting hit. So, you know, Microsoft do it regularly for a reason, so that, you know, they're trying to help you. So if it says Windows Update, please restart, I would probably do it to make sure you're up to date. Antivirus and malware protection. I would highly recommend you have at least one. We we actually usually do 2, because what antivirus software might miss, if the malware software will pick up. Our preferred recommended software is ESET for antivirus, and we use Malwarebytes for malware protection. Both work hand in hand; they don't fight each other. So I think that's really key. And if you have another IT company looking after you, make sure that they actually monitor these things, because if you do get an issue and you don't know about it, the longer you leave that issue, the bigger the hole gets and more things get worse. So, it's great having antivirus, great having, malware protection. But unless someone's actually actively monitoring it, getting email alerts, knowing that things are happening, then it's sort of, it's defeating the purpose. Advanced authorization access. So what I mean by that is, most when you set up your own laptop, you set yourself up as administrator. When you're administrator, you have 4 rights. So whatever you install, you can just go ahead and do it. If you're a user, it actually prompts you for an administrator password. So although this is a bit inconvenient, if you think about it from a breach issue, if they get in, there's only so much they can do as a user. So for companies we look after, we generally set every user up as a user, and have a separate administrator user, which can then change things. It's actually the best way to run things, because it's basically locking down your system. And it's not too difficult having two accounts, because obviously, it's a way to protect you. So I'd highly recommend thinking about that. If you need help with that, then just let us know. It's not too difficult. Create another account, changing that. So I'd sort of highly recommend that to protect you going forward. Just again, it's just a reminder about emails. We all get hundreds of emails, sometimes a day. If you have it from a person that you don't know, these guys who send out spam, they make things look very real. But just have a look at the top of the email. Make sure it's from .co.nz. Just make sure that it's not .ru or some other country that you thinking, well, why am I getting email from another country? Just think for a second before clicking those links, because usually, if it sounds too good to be true, it usually is. And again, I'll just go back to backups, having that backups there. Just one last thing, vulnerability tools. So if you want to know if your email has been compromised, there's a site called Have I Been Pawned? And that's a way, so if you've had an email for a few years, there's a potential that your Dropbox account or your Facebook account has been hacked. And if you haven't changed your password for a couple of years, it's likely that someone else has that password. So if you go onto this site here, Have I Been Pawned? It will actually show you how, if your email's been compromised. So if it has, then just go and change it. Another really good site, if you want to do a quick test from your home, and you want to know that your router is secure, there's no open ports on it. If you go to Shodan, which is shodan.io, and just that's a good point, actually. You might need some help with that. You need to put in your IP address of your router. That's not too difficult. You can just go to whatismyipaddress.com, and that'll give you your IP address, and you can just put it in Shodan, and it'll actually just show you whether there's any open ports on your router. If you've got open ports in your router, potentially they could be compromised. So yeah, it's just a simple test to do. We do it for all businesses, making sure there's nothing open. And I'd highly recommend doing that, so you know that you're safe, protected from a firewall and from the outside world. Nessus, I'll just sort of just touch on that. Nessus is a professional tool. We use that for doing penetration tests. It's a very well-known product, very expensive, but it's extremely good. So if businesses want that sort of overall protection, making sure the things are there. This goes a next level further. It even able to detect the routers, and yeah, and it just reviews all the vulnerabilities there. So yep, so that's it for me. So I hope that wasn't too boring. So questions?
Well done, Marcus. Yeah, second time I've seen that presentation, it still hits the spot. So, and I do love the big PC, the desk-based PC. I actually needed to plug into Christina's laptop, which she inherited from me, and I found it absolutely abominable to work with after having worked on a desktop. So you're absolutely right. It's the way to go. Anyway, any questions of Marcus?
Marcus, Colin listened in to that too. He said if you found any vulnerable ports, he's going to go and have a look at Shodan. What do you do?
Well, basically, you just need to go into the router and actually just make sure it's all closed. So there's a, depending what router you got, it will there'll be a section there for ports, and you just need to make sure that they're turned off. Some, if you're with like 2 degrees, I think there's a couple of ISPs, they use a certain service to automatically, so they send you out a router and it gets pre-configured with their system. So there is sometimes one port that might be open, which is required for the ISP. But apart from that, you shouldn't have much open, you know, because what you got open potentially is, yeah, is a real vulnerability. So most ones you buy are generally by default blocked. Everything is blocked, but it's just worth doing a check just to make sure.
Thanks, Marcus. He gave us a thumbs up. He understood.
Yeah, great.
All right. Any more questions? No? All right. Well, let's move on. Let's start from the bottom right-hand corner.